This is the AWS Morning Brief Security Edition. AWS is fond of saying security is job zero. That means it's nobody in particular's job, which means it falls to the rest of us. Just the news you need to know, none of the fluff. This episode is sponsored in part by Honeycomb. When production is running slow, it's hard to know where problems originate. Is it your application code, users, or the underlying systems? I've got $5 on DNS, personally. Why scroll through endless dashboards while dealing with alert floods, going from tool to tool to tool that you employ, guessing at which puzzle pieces matter? Context switching and tool sprawl are slowly killing both your team and your business. You should care more about one of those than the other. Which one is up to you? Drop the separate pillars and enter a world of getting one unified understanding of the one thing driving your business: production. With Honeycomb, you guess less and know more. Try it for free at honeycomb.io/screaminginthecloud. Observability, it's more than just hipster monitoring.
Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS Security Edition. A lot of interesting news coming out of the community last week, and almost none of it directly from the cloud providers themselves. Let's get into it. So I missed it in the kerfuffle of their terrible response, but Azure has another security issue around its Synapse offering, and this one was discovered by the folks over at Tenable. Sysdig is a dive up into the real threats to enabling SSH on EC2 instances. Tailscale now has announced the ability to support Tailscale SSH, meaning you can use Tailscale itself instead of the normal SSH daemon. If this were almost any other company than Tailscale, I'd be screaming a warning about this, but credit where due. They've earned that level of trust. Chris Barris has a treatise on the philosophy of prevention when it comes to cloud security, and I don't disagree with a single thing he's written. Take a look. Also, think pieces. Google Cloud CISO Phil Venables asks whether security analogies are counterproductive. You see, the CISO asking this question is like a car hurtling down the freeway. A security issue of sorts was discovered around STS get session token role chaining in AWS, and the failure was more to do with poor documentation and inconsistencies between the IAM policy simulator and reality. AWS is addressing both of them. The person responsible for the giant Capital One hack that took advantage of a series of small AWS misconfigurations has been convicted. Capital One didn't do that much wrong here, compared to folks just leaving their S3 buckets open willy-nilly. Fun fact, willy-nilly is short for William Nilliam. Bet you didn't know that.
DoorDash had a problem. As their cloud-native environment scaled and developers delivered new features, their monitoring system kept breaking down. In an organization where data is used to make better decisions about technology and about the business, losing observability means the entire company loses their competitive edge. With Chronosphere, DoorDash is no longer losing visibility into their application suite. The key? Chronosphere is an open-source compatible, scalable, and reliable observability solution that gives the observability lead at DoorDash business confidence and peace of mind. Read the full success story at snark.cloud/chronosphere. That's snark.cloud/CHRONOSPHERE.
It's sometimes easy to forget that Microsoft owns GitHub. They've been largely hands-off, which is good. Every once in a while we get reminded, though, such as by the disclosure that rogue GitHub apps could have hijacked countless repositories for a week or two earlier this year. AWS only really had one thing of note about security to say. Wicker for Government achieves FedRAMP Ready designation. Now, government and instant messaging just don't seem like they'd get along super well, but that's my perspective. What do I know? Over in the land of tools and tips, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that it takes an open source project like Track IAM to collate IAM actions, AWS APIs, and manage policies from all over the place, but somehow I still am. And finally, on the lighter side, if you want to play a new game, Passwordle lets you guess commonly used passwords. And that's what happened last week in AWS security. Stay salty, friends.
Thank you for listening to the AWS Morning Brief Security Edition. For the latest in AWS security that actually matters, please follow AWS Morning Brief on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever the hell it is you find the dulcet tones of my voice. And be sure to sign up for the Last Week in AWS newsletter at lastweekinaws.com.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.